It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. And over the next hour, we're going to talk all things real estate here in the Low Country. If this is your first time tuning in, the purpose of this show is very simple. I am not the political guy that's going to talk about anything really politically related to the housing market unless I think it applies to you, the consumer, you, the interested buyer, seller, or someone that's actively in the real estate market. So again, the goal here is very simple in my show. I like to take national, regional, local data and some experiences that I have as a top 1% agent in our market since 2009 and share those stories with you, share that information with you so that when it comes time for you to buy or sell a home, you've got the information you need to make an informed decision and you're up to date with trends in our market. Our market is always ever changing. And so that's my goal, is to just help keep you informed here on this show. Before I get started, if you'd like to reach out to me with anything real estate related, again, I am a real estate agent Monday to Sunday at all times of the day. So if you have a question, concern, comment, or if you'd like to reach out to me because you're interested in working with me to buy or sell a home or invest in some property, the best way to do that is to go to my website. My website is www.listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS, you can read some testimonials from past clients, take a look at the listings I have sold, and then if you click on the Sell Your Home tab, you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. And that very simply states that I will produce an offer on your home in 59 days or less, or I will sell it for half my commission. So feel free to check out that website, listingsincharleston.com, or of course you can call or text me. My phone number is 843-345-1273. And I've had a lot of people contact me over the past few weeks as our market starts to heat up with interest in buying and selling. And so at several points throughout this next hour, I want to notify the listeners of some things that I need from you. I have both buyers and sellers that obviously want to buy and sell property. So I want to try and match some of these folks up and see if we can create some sales. I've actually had some great experience and luck in the past few weeks in being able to do that for my clients and for some listeners. And I'd like to keep that train rolling. It's been great. So again, listingsincharleston.com is the website to contact me. Here's what I have planned for this show. First thing I want to talk about is open houses. A lot of people want open houses, especially when we're in a market like this. Everybody's out and about looking at property, looking online. And so I want to take you through the 5 different types of people that come to open houses. Who are they? What are they looking for? And then most importantly, do they really work? And what the agents think about open houses. Why do they want to do open houses or not do open houses? So I want to get into that. A little bit later on, I want to talk about how our market is changing, specifically our Tri-County area. I want to go over some numbers just in terms of growth. That's going to parlay into our third segment, which is going to be new construction. What's going on in that market? We're seeing a nice increase in new construction properties, which is needed because we're in a seller's market almost across the board here in the Tri-County area. And then lastly, I want to talk about something very important, and I think it's something that we really need some clear-cut information on, and that is very simply not getting screwed over by a contractor. You know, obviously, when you list your home or you work with a real estate agent, the commission is very clear-cut. It's typically 6%. The listing agent gets 3%, the buyer agent gets 3%, or in the rare cases where the listing agent can also find the buyer for your home, then they get 6%. And sometimes that's negotiable. But when you look at working with a contractor, it's very difficult to determine where the dollars and cents actually go. So I want to dive into that in depth, and we're going to do that last. So again, before I get into all of this, if you'd like to contact me, my website, listingsincharleston.com. So let's talk about open houses first. Let's talk about the buyer types that usually visit these open houses. And I'll begin by saying that I have done several hundred open houses in my career. I've been a realtor in our market for about 8 years now. And again, earlier on in my career, I was at an open house every single weekend. Part of it was to generate some clients for myself, but it was also to create exposure for the listings that I had. And when people come through the house, these are the types of people that I usually run into. The first one, which is obviously the person you want, is the real buyer. Depending upon how they saw that open house, maybe it was posted online. Of course, they could just be driving around and saw your directional sign, saw that the house was open, and took it upon themselves to walk in the house. So regardless of how they found that property, yes, real buyers do come to open houses, and yes, buyers do purchase property at open houses. It's happened. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened to me. And being the marketing professional that I am, and back in 2006 when I was Entrepreneur of the Year in South Carolina for creating a real estate online marketing company, I fully understand how to market my properties for sale and to find interested buyers. So when I would prepare these open houses, it was a very large campaign that really started about 10 days before the actual open house. And it was, posting it online, posting it on Craigslist, posting it on Facebook, so on and so forth, calling other agents, calling buyers, calling sellers, sending out an email to my 7,000 person database to see if there was anybody that might be interested in taking a look at it. And so every once in a while, you'd have a real buyer that came through, and it was great. You're able to show them the property on their terms. You get to walk through them. You get some time to really allocate to answering their questions. And again, depending upon where they saw it, they're going to have different questions. So it's nice to be able to answer them and, of course, get them through the house. So that's the number one person, obviously, that you want is the real buyer that's either represented or unrepresented by an agent. And it happens. The second type of person that comes through the open house, and this is a lot more common, is the nosy neighbor. All too often I would have people come through my open house. They weren't really open to answering questions, wouldn't really tell me what they're looking for. And then as the open house progressed and as we walked through the property, you find out that they live close and that it was just their opportunity to walk through the house. In fact, I have one pretty funny story where somebody came through, and this was a nice house, a big screened-in porch, and then off of that was a deck. But you had the view of a neighbor kind of to the left. So I had this guy walk through. He immediately bypassed me, bypassed the sign-up sheet, had no idea who this guy was, didn't want to share any information at all with me. And then he got on the phone, made a phone call, and while standing on the back deck, was talking to his son. And so his purpose in visiting the open house was to find out how much privacy he really had from his house, because he was the house that was back to the left. So he'd say, can you hear me now? Can you see me now? And he was walking all throughout the house, trying to determine how private or not private his house was. So obviously you're going to get nearby neighbors. Those are also the culprits that typically steal the flyers from the flyer box. The third type of person is, of course, the agent that might be scoping out that location or that particular house for their buyer client. And those are great opportunities. Obviously, when I do an open house, I market it to everybody, not just buyers and not just nearby neighbors, but to agents as well. And so sometimes if they've got an out-of-town client, they're going to bring, whatever information sheet they need to check off some lists for their client, walk through the house and determine whether or not that house works well for them. The fourth type of person that walks through the open house is the agent that lost the listing. And I've had this happen, maybe dozens of times. They're just curious. They just want to know how you're doing. Are you getting any activity? What could they have done better? Sometimes there's some harsh feelings there. That doesn't happen all too often, but every once in a while you get the agent that's just nosy and wants to know what you're doing. Or I've had a few instances where agents are trying to figure out what I do to market property and why I'm now working with the seller as opposed to them. Does that really pose a threat to you as the seller? No, not really. Is it information you need? No, not really. But it happens. And then the fifth type of person that comes through the house, which I've also had happen many times, is the previous owner. They want to see what kind of upgrades the current owner has made. And that's really it. You maybe have some family or some friends that are related to the owner that will share that information with them. But those are the 5 people that come through the open house. Again, we're talking open houses if you're just tuning in. And I am Brian Beatty. I'm the host of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on 1250 WTMA. So do they really work is the big question. I'm going to give you my very straightforward opinion as someone, again, that's done hundreds of open houses. And in my humble opinion, open houses used to work. And they used to work because buyers had limited resources as it relates to finding out information on property. But now, when you look at websites like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com or any of these major websites, agent personal websites, company websites, what have you, they are now able to be so specific in the properties that they select that they're going to go in there, they're going to put in a very specific set of search criteria, and they're only going to look at the properties that fit their needs rather than just driving around and hoping that the home that they come across fits their needs perfectly. So we have more resources now to be able to search for open houses. So quite frankly, why do agents do them? Well, they do them to generate leads for themselves. And most of the time they do it to just keep the sellers happy. I personally don't think that open houses work very well, but they can work. And so is it a useful method for marketing property for sale? Yes. Do we still do them? Yes. I think it's an important tool. And I think it's something that any real estate agent that is doing truly everything they can to market property for sale should consider when listing a property for sale and in representing that seller's best interest. So that's my 2 cents. That's my soapbox on open houses. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the new construction market, and I'm going to talk about how our area is changing. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I'm your host, Brian Beatty, and if this is your first time tuning in, the goal of this show is very simple. I like to take national, regional, local sales data, information about the real estate market, and just apply it to the low country so that when it comes time for you to consider buying or selling a home, you have the information you need to make an informed decision. We talk a lot about trends on this show, how to prepare your home for sale. I do a lot of informational segments on really all things having to do with buying, selling, and investing. So if you'd like to hear any previous version of this show, I have finally put the audio files on my website. So lots of good information on there spanning to December of last year. That website is listingsincharleston.com, or you can give me a call, 843-345-1273. You can also text me at that number, 843-345-1273. So last segment, if you're just joining us, we were talking about open houses and whether or not they work. And just a very quick recap on that, I had mentioned that I've done well over a few hundred open houses at this point in my career. I have not sold a home through an open house, and being the person that really understands marketing, online marketing, and creating traffic for properties, obviously it's a little disappointing that I haven't been able to sell a house through an open house, but they do occasionally work. So we're going to have one of my listings open this Sunday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And one of my buyer agents is going to be holding that house open. I encourage you, if you're considering the Wagner Terrace area, to go and take a look at that house. 100% remodeled. It's basically a new house. 2 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, hardwood floors, new roof, new HVAC, new kitchen, new bathrooms, new everything. And that's priced at $275,000. So if you're out and about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Sunday, take a look at 135 Simons Street in downtown Charleston. I want to talk next about the growth that we've seen as a Charleston metro area over the past few years, and I want to try and give you guys an indication of where I think our market is headed, because obviously population growth, job growth and creation affects the housing market, and it's going to tie in nicely with my next segment after I take a break about new construction and what's going on in that market, what we can expect to see over the next few years. So when I take a look at sales just across the board, again, I mentioned that we like to look at national figures and then relate ourselves to those national and regional numbers. If we look at just sales overall nationally, the South accounted for 51% of the population jump between 2010 and 2013 in the 52 U.S. major metropolitan areas with a population of 1 million or more. So the nice thing is that we've got a lot of people that move to the South. And if for anybody that lives here, I know that you know plenty of people that have moved from the Northeast specifically, I being one of them, having been born and raised in Northern Virginia and have been living here for close to 13 years now. But the South commanded the majority of sales as well. So looking at just Charleston's growth as it has related to this population increase, I think we've got obviously a great horizon ahead of us, but I wanted to give you some numbers just for the sake of context, because obviously one of my goals on this show is to provide you with trends and data so that if we're considering selling now versus maybe 3 years from now, this information might be helpful to you. Then again, it might not. I don't know. But if you look at the just Tri-County area, Berkeley County was the 35th fastest growing area in the United States for population. Dorchester County was 97th. Charleston County did not make the top 100 in terms of counties nationally, but it is certainly growing as well. If you look at South Carolina's population overall, it increased a little over 2% or close to 100,000 people over the past 3 years. So obviously that's very encouraging. If you look at just the Tri-County area, however, we've grown by 5%. We've added about 33,000 people to our Tri-County area over the past 3 years. 2 years. So that's about 15,000 people a year. And if I look at just Berkeley County, let's hone in on Berkeley County because they topped the list. They're adding about 12,000 residents every 2 years, about 6,000 residents a year. And certainly that population boom is going to have an effect on real estate. It's also going to have a big effect on our retail market, our job growth. It's going to necessitate us having some infrastructure in place that can account for this population growth. So we're going to need larger schools, better schools, wider roads, all kinds of good stuff. So why am I telling you this? Well, I think that it's important that as we look at how our market is changing, we try and forecast as best as possible what's happening to the real estate market. So next segment, I'm going to talk about the new construction aspect of real estate, what we're seeing, how it's having an effect on on our market, and how we're going to be able to accommodate this pretty nice amount of growth in the Tri-County area. So let's kind of take a step back for a second and just look at job growth and wage increases, because without the ability to increase wage, create more jobs, the ability for people to afford a home or move up, sell a smaller home and then purchase a bigger one, that certainly ties into that and that affects that. So we're looking about a 2% increase in jobs in 2014. And if you look at, let's say Boeing, for an example, they're adding 2,000 workers by 2020. Benefit Focus on Daniel Island plans to add 1,300 or so jobs on Daniel Island over the next few years. So there's a few thousand jobs right there. In fact, they're looking at adding about 25,000 jobs to the Charleston region over the next 5 years. So we've got a lot of people moving to the area. And one of the really cool things about being in real estate and being a realtor and selling dozens and dozens and dozens of homes a year is that we get to meet people from all walks of life. And for some of the higher end properties that I sold last year, it was very interesting. I sold a house to a guy from Poland, and then I sold a house to a guy from South Africa. And I asked them, why Charleston of all places in the world? How did you hone in on Mount Pleasant, which is where both of them purchased? And their answer was very simple. And I think it's why a lot of us live here. It's because it's the total package. You've got history. You've got downtown, which has incredible dining and character and shopping. The views are great. We're close to the beach. We're close to water. There's a lot of stuff to do in Charleston. And it's reasonably priced. If you look at us compared to San Francisco, I mean, holy cow, San Francisco property is 5 times as expensive as Charleston. So, and a somewhat similar town. So I think that just overall, Charleston really is experiencing some great growth right now. And then you look at something like tourism, which is a major factor for our economy. We have 4 million people that visit Charleston on an annual basis. And that's just, I think, going to continue to grow. We've had so much positive press over the past few years with it being, a top 5 travel destination, a top 5 place to retire. They say statistically that people are happier that live here. It's tough not to be. We live in a beautiful area. So as we see our population increase, as we see jobs increase, as we see wages start to increase, which is happening, and it's obviously fantastic. I love the positive momentum that we're building just as an area. We are going to have to account for this influx of people. I think the other thing that we need to be mindful of is household formation. Right now, we have a lot of people that are bogged down with student debt. They're living with their parents. They can't afford a new home. They should be first-time home buyers, but they just can't get over that initial hump, save up enough money to afford a down payment, and ultimately purchase something. So not only are we seeing this population increase, I also think, just as a realtor that's got a good pulse on the market, that we're going to see household formation change, which is going to create more opportunities for purchasing and selling. So any questions about the Charleston real estate market, about job growth, population growth, and how that affects you? Maybe you have more of a long-term view on selling your home or on purchasing your home. And while we try not to speculate too much, I also think it's important that if you look at these trends, you have a reasonable idea of what's happening to our market. And I want to try in some way, shape, or form quantify that for you. So if you're interested in selling your home, please visit my website. Listingsincharleston.com is the website. And if you click on the Sell Your Home tab, you'll read more about my marketing plan. You'll see a long list of properties that I've sold that other agents did not sell. And of course, you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. And that very simply states, I'll produce an offer on your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half of my commission. So Listings in Charleston is the website to go to read about that and to submit a little contact form. I am happy to provide you with a free appraisal and just talk with you in confidentiality about your situation and how I might be able to help. Or you can just give me a call, 843-345-1273. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about new construction in our market and what's happening with that, how it's affecting our supply. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I've been on the radio here for a better part of a year talking about all things real estate here in the Lowcountry. So thank you very much for joining me this morning. If this is your first time tuning in, a little bit earlier on, we were talking about open houses. Do they work? Do they not work? If you'll visit my website, listingsincharleston.com, I'll have a version of this show posted by Monday of next week. So if that's something you're considering or would like more information on that, feel free to go to the site, listen to the audio file that I'll post, and you can learn all about it. Prior to taking a break, we talked about what kind of growth Charleston is seeing and where we are in terms of where we're going to be a few years from now. And I told you last segment that this segment, we're going to talk about new construction. New construction is what's going to help us solve our supply issue here in the Tri-County area. Obviously, if you've tuned into the show before, if you listen on a consistent basis, because I know I've got a few regulars at this point, and then I've also got agents and other people in various forms of the real estate industry that have mentioned they listen to this show just to kind of get a pulse on the market, find out what's happening so that they can properly advise their clients, which I'm humbled by. Thank you for tuning in and for trusting me as your real estate advisor. So I want to talk about new construction and what I see happening to our market right now. Again, if you'd like to contact me, listingsincharleston.com is my website. And you can also reach me at 843-345-1273. So the reason I want to talk about new construction is because we do have a supply issue in many areas of our market. Obviously, our market is broken up into individual counties, individual areas within those counties, and then it can go, of course, as local as something hyper local, like just a neighborhood, or sometimes even a street within a neighborhood. You look at Park West, for an example, that has 33 different subsections within it and several thousand people that live there. New construction is needed in various areas of our market. So before I get into that, I do want to just say that if you're considering selling your home right now is when you really need to consider putting it on the market. We've got a lot of buyers that are sitting on the sidelines. And over the past few weeks, I've been able to match up some buyers and some sellers immediately by just talking with them, talking about what they need, what they want. And I've got a pipeline of several thousand people that I stay in touch with on a consistent basis. So if you're considering selling, please let me know. And just a quick note on that. If you have a home in the Old Village between $300,000 and $1.5 million, I have several buyers looking in that area and in that price range. Can't find anything for them. Same thing with oceanfront condos and houses, townhouses as well. I've got people in all price ranges up to $2 million. Can't find anything there. And then Mount Pleasant waterfront. If you're on a tidal creek, some sort of shallow water or reasonably deep water under $750,000, I have 3 separate buyers that want to buy right now. There's just a lack of overall inventory. So again, if you're listening and you have that, please let me know. If you're considering selling, I might be able to bring you an immediate buyer. Listingsincharleston.com is how you can contact me, or call me, 843-345-1273. So let's talk a little bit about new construction in our market, what's happening, and what direction we need to go in at this point in order to create some normalcy in our market. Charleston County right now is very much so a seller's market. If you look at Mount Pleasant, for an example, there's some areas of Mount Pleasant with like 3 months worth of inventory. Properties are selling so fast, especially if it's priced reasonably well and it's in good condition with some nice upgrades, it's going to sell almost immediately. So that has been a nice change of pace from, let's say, 2007, 2009, when it was tough to give away your house. So what do we need in order to fix this inventory problem? I just told you that I have several buyers that just can't find property. We need new construction. So I ran some numbers just for our Tri-County area, and I wanted to share those numbers with you and give you some insight as to what's going on in our market and how new construction is affecting it. If you look at everything that's under contract, so they've agreed to a contract and they're working through the terms of that agreement, or they're pending sale, meaning that all the terms to the contract have been satisfied. They're just waiting for a closing date. In Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester County, we're looking at about 1 in every 3 or 1 in every 4 homes as being a new construction home. So those percentages harbor between 25 and in some instances up to 40%. Berkeley County and Dorchester County account for more new construction properties than Charleston County. Obviously, one of the reasons being there's just more room to build. There's not much you can do about building a new construction development in downtown Charleston, although they're popping up more and more. But let's look at just the market overall. If again, we're talking about the fact that there are supply issues, and we know that 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 that properties that are going under contract and selling is new construction, where are we right now? Where are the active new construction properties versus all the resales? Well, Dorchester County, Berkeley County, they are slightly behind. They've got Dorchester County, 24% of the inventory as of this morning is new construction, and Berkeley County, 27% of their new construction inventory when compared to the resale market. So looking at the sales over the past 6 to 12 months, we're a little bit down in some areas. We really need some of that inventory to continue to maintain a pace with what we've set over the past 6 to 12 months. But here's the real kicker, is that if you look at everything for sale in Charleston County, only 14% of what's currently listed for sale is a new construction property, either being built or being proposed. That's low. If you look at everything under contract in Charleston County right now, 31% of everything under contract is new construction. So clearly we have an issue where we just simply don't have enough new construction properties on the market to kind of get us back toward a normal market. Again, Mount Pleasant is very much so a seller's market. Same thing with downtown Charleston and a few other areas of Charleston County. So we really need to see an increase in new construction offerings in order for us to reach normalcy. It's starting to flood the market in some areas, especially Berkeley County. There's, again, 27% of everything for sale in Berkeley County is new construction. And I think you're probably asking yourself, well, what's the norm? It's certainly changed. If you look at what happened in 2009, when we really had just a bust in the new construction market, we are projected to be about 50% ahead of the national average from the standpoint of putting new construction properties on the market. So I'll say that again, because you may have missed it. The Charleston Tri-County area is slotted to have 50% more new construction homes when compared to the national average. So we're getting there. We're preparing for it, but we're not quite there yet. And this is the time where people start building a house. If you look at the average, it's going to take on average 5-6 months to build a house, depending upon where you're located. And of course, the price range and the nature of the home, whether it's a spec home, a track home, a custom or semi-custom home, and of course, how large it is. But I think we really need to see some inventory hit the market in a fairly big way, not just new construction, but resale as well, in order for us to reach that normalcy. And then I also want to kind of let you guys know what's happening on a national basis, because you look at some of these larger publicly held builders like D.R. Horton and Toll Brothers and Pulte Group, and then you look at their stocks, all of them are down double digits in the past month. And so why is that? Well, I think a lot of investors, especially New York-based or Chicago-based investors that just had a really rough winter, are noticing that the selling season for the second quarter has effectively been cut in half. Now, obviously in Charleston, we didn't have a rough winter, but if you look at anything to the north or Midwest, they had a really rough winter this year. So that delays construction, that delays contracts. And then what happens? That delays them moving to Charleston. Or there's the domino effect where other areas of the country certainly affect us because we have people that need to move here. And we talked last segment about 25,000 new jobs being created in Charleston over the next 5 years. So I think we really need to kind of kick it in gear, especially in Charleston County. So again, if you're listening and you have a home that you're considering selling, please contact me. There are plenty of buyers that are ready, willing, and able. There's just a struggle with inventory. So feel free to give me a call or go to my website. My phone number is 843-345-1273. The website is listingsincharleston.com. And if you click on the Sell Your Home tab, you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, where I will produce an offer in your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So we're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about not getting screwed over by contractors. It's really important that we have this discussion because there's just an overall lack of information out there on how to properly go about the process of hiring a contractor. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA, and I'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. That's lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. Got a lot going on in Charleston this weekend. We've got the Flower Town Festival, the Bridge Run, the Cajun Festival, all kinds of good stuff. So if you're out and about driving in your car and this is your first time tuning in, I'm a top 1% realtor in our market, have been since 2009, and like to take information and experiences that I have as a top agent and help you by sharing that information, going through national, regional, local sales data, and applying that to the low country. So if you're considering buying or selling a home, my goal is simple. I just want you to be informed, and I want you to have an idea of where the trends are in our market so that when it comes time to do that, you're prepared. If you'd like to reach out to me at any point during this program or thereafter, my website, listingsincharleston.com. You can go there and search the MLS. You can look at my current listings, sold listings, read testimonials. And then if you're considering selling your home, which has been kind of a underlying tone of this show because we have such serious inventory issues in our market. If you're considering selling your home, first and foremost, I may have an immediate buyer for you. We're working with dozens of buyers at the moment, and we need to help them find some homes. So again, go to that website, listingsincharleston.com, and click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you'll learn a little bit more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. And that very simply states, I will produce an offer on your home in 59 days or less, or I will sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is where you can find out more information on that. Two more quick things before I get into this last segment, which is how to avoid getting screwed over by a contractor. Number one, I do have some agents on my team that are holding an open house this weekend. I know they appreciate me kind of pitching that open house over the radio, which I guess is one of the perks of being on the radio. The address is 135 Simons Street in downtown Charleston. Great house, 2-bed, 2-bath, recently renovated, nothing left to be done in the house. Awesome looking house. It's priced at $275,000. Swing by 135 Simons Street in Wagner Terrace. And if you're considering buying or selling a home, again, listingsincharleston.com is where you'll find that information. All right, let's get into hiring a contractor. You know, when you hire a real estate agent, it's very cut and dry. You have a discussion up front about how much commission is associated with selling the property. 99 times out of 100, the seller pays the commission, and it's usually 5 or 6%. The industry standard here, locally at least, is 6%. So the listing agent gets 3%, the buyer agent gets 3%. If the listing agent's able to if the listing agent is able to find the buyer, then they get both sides of the commission. That's what you're hiring them for, is to market your home. However, when you hire a contractor, there is no industry standard. It's very challenging to feel comfortable about hiring a contractor. So I want to give you some information that's really going to help you sort through who to hire, who to fire, and how to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. And I'm going to put this in an attachment. And if you have any interest in receiving this list, again, just send a quick message to me on my website, listingsincharleston.com. If you're considering doing any sort of a remodel on your house, you're going to want this list to make sure that all your boxes are checked. So listingsincharleston.com is where you can go to find that. So let's get started. First and foremost, you need to do your research when you hire a contractor. I have had it happen way too many times to my clients and to some of my friends where they knew a guy whose best friend's mom's brother was in construction, and he came over. He took a look at the property, said, "Yeah, I can do it, and let me get started, and I'll have it done in a few weeks." You really need to first and foremost check references. You need to do your research. You need to ask them for a list of satisfied clients. You need to determine whether or not there have been any claims against them with the Better Business Bureau. If there are some negative reviews on them online, one of the great things about Google and Google Plus is that if they're posted on Google, you have the ability to read or leave reviews on that particular contracting company. So do some due diligence up front. Make sure that the person or people that you have come through your home are qualified, have nice reviews, and are willing to provide you with testimonials. If you get any pushback on any of those things, that should be a red flag to you. You should really take that into consideration, because that's not showing good faith on the contractor's part that they've got a long list of satisfied clients. I would be sketched out by that personally. Number two, you really need to trust your gut when you're working with a contractor. Now, if this is your first time going through a renovation on your house, or let's say you've purchased a property, you want to flip it, and you need to hire a contractor to do the work for you, the first thing that you do, of course, is your research. But more importantly, if the research doesn't check out, or if you just get some sort of a weird vibe from this contractor that seems to indicate he's not telling you the truth, or he's dodging answers, or he or she is just slippery in nature, they evade the direct question, and you need to be asking some direct questions. Trust your gut. If there's something that's a red flag in just your general discussions with them, then that should be a sign to you that that might not be the contractor for you. There are plenty of great contractors out there, but I think there are even more contractors out there that really you shouldn't work with. And I think if there are any contractors listening right now, they're probably shaking their head up and down saying, yeah, that's an industry that really needs some help and needs some of a bit of a standardized approach to how they go about bidding property, how they provide you with that information so that you trust that when you hire them, not only are they going to get the job done, but that they're not, charging more than they should be charging. So that's number one. And number two, do your research and trust your gut. Aside from that, really you need to have you need to demand respect for your time. All too often, I have hired contractors to do jobs for some of the properties that I've purchased and used as investment property or flipped or had some things done to my house. And you end up paying this contractor, this general contractor, a percentage of the total job to manage it. But what ends up happening? You end up managing it. So you need to have some respect for your time agreed to by that contractor. You're not the person that is going to oversee this project. The correct contractor you choose should be doing that for you. That's what you're paying them for, because more than likely, they're hiring subcontractors to do the work. The general contractor isn't doing the work. It's their subs. So they should be managing those people. You don't need to be managing the general contractor. So that's number three. Have an agreement where the general contractor has some respect for your time. Number four, negotiate up front. I would say that 99.9 times out of 100, a contractor is going to provide you with a bid that's slightly inflated. I think that you can negotiate the majority of these bids downward, and I would suggest that you try to do that. I think it makes sense to, in these types of situations, because there isn't a set standardized approach to hiring a contractor, that you have that discussion. Say, hey, is there anything on this list that we can tighten up? This seems high, or this seems high, or is that going to be enough? The last thing you want to do is agree to a renovation where they underprice it and then they come back to you toward the end and say, hey, I need more money. I can't get this done. Well, that's their fault for not properly looking at the project to determine how much it's going to cost them so that you can pay them. That's probably why you choose that contract in the first place. You look at their bid, looks good, you go with them. So negotiate up front. Always try and negotiate that contractor's agreement. Number five, don't pay everything up front. Please do not pay everything up front. Contractors have different ways of going about their business. Some people just pay for the labor and the owner provides the materials, which is sometimes what I do when I renovate my properties, is I'll pay for the materials. I just want you to install it, and I'm going to pay you, Mr. General Contractor, to make sure that this process goes smoothly and happens in a timely manner. So don't pay for everything up front. You want to make sure that the contractor you choose has the ability to fund some of the project. If they don't, that should be a bit of a red flag. Number six, you really need to document everything. There needs to be a running list of things that they have done and are yet to do, and that all needs to be documented. You need to keep some records of where they've been throughout the process, how much money you've given them, maybe at different stages in the renovation. Just document everything. Have the contractor provide you with documents, but then also keep your own documents. You need to make sure that the records line up. All right. Number seven, don't be afraid to pull the plug. If things aren't going the way that they told you they were going to go, then it might be time to pull the plug and to fire them. Say, hey, this is not what you told me was going to happen, and I am not willing to pay more, or I am not willing to wait longer while you figure it out. So those are just some simple things. I really don't have time to get through this entire list, and it's something that I'm really passionate about because I don't want people to get taken advantage of in this industry, whether it's remodeling, buying, selling, what have you. So I tell you what, I am out of time. So contact me if you want this list. Listingsincharleston.com. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. And feel free to reach out to me personally, 843-345-1273. Have a great weekend.
Join Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.